Okay, so we're going to now look at a slightly more complex piece. This is titled Etude. Etude simply is the French word for study. A musical study is a piece that focuses on one or two technical aspects of playing. And in this particular etude, we're going to use a single right-hand pattern played as free strokes. We can see this pattern in measure 1 of the etude. The thumb is going to pluck the 6th string, the index finger the 3rd, and the middle the 2nd. And then we're going to go back to the index finger. So our pattern is P-I-M-I. P-I-M-I. And basically we're going to just continuously repeat this pattern. We are going to vary what string the thumb plays, and also the index and the middle finger will switch from the 2nd and 3rd strings to, in some cases, the 1st and the 2nd string. So you're going to have to learn how to find those two strings and distinguish them from one another. And this will take very careful practice. One way to practice this first exercise, this first etude, is to look at the first two measures, where we play the P-I-M-I pattern. And if you look at the second measure, it does exactly the same thing, but we have a fretted note C in that second measure. And then we let go of it for the third measure, and then we put it back for the fourth measure. So that's how that one's basically working. As we go on, then we move to different strings, and we will continue to have some fretted notes. Some of these are quite difficult to do because you're being asked to fret a note while you're playing an open string right next to it. You may find this frustrating and get this result. Now, that is a result of my left-hand finger here, when I fret the first fret, not really having the proper angle. That finger has to be at the angle which will allow the first string to ring freely. On a steel string guitar, the narrowness of the neck makes that particularly difficult. Also, steel strings have a little more tension, so when pressing down, it's going to require more pressure as well. So it can be a little frustrating, but work through it. And what I encourage you to do for now is, even if you don't get a clear note, just keep going to the next measure. Eventually you will learn to fret that cleanly. What you don't want to do is stop and continuously try to correct the same thing. That forms bad musical habits. So here is Etude in E minor played through slowly, using free strokes in the right hand. And then I'll play it a little faster a second time so you can hear how it might come together later. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice that last chord I played requires, that vertical stack of 3 notes on the staff requires plucking all 3 strings, 6th, 2nd, and 1st, simultaneously. That can be a little tricky to do. Basically what you do is place your fingers on the strings and then almost in a crab claw fashion, remove them at the same time, trying to be as true to the plucking motion as you can. So here's the same exercise a little faster so that you can hear where this can go. Something seemingly so simple can sound a little more interesting at a faster tempo. At that tempo, it's pretty short, too. If you look at the following example, it basically presents this etude in what I call block patterns, and that's where you're playing the same exact notes, but you are pinching them all at the same time, and the rhythm has changed. So this is the same exact sequence of notes as the etude. It's just an alternate way of practicing it. It allows you to just focus on what this hand is doing, rather than having to play those individual notes in the pattern. Okay, so now we have a treble string etude, and in this example you're going to have to fret 2 pitches at the same time in some cases. And this is even more tricky than just having a single fretted note with an open string. In this case, we're going to hold A, we've already learned is on the 2nd fret 3rd string with the 2nd finger, and C with the 1st finger on the 2nd string 1st fret. The 1st string is sounded open and needs to be able to sound it as well. So your goal is to be able to hold down the A, the C, and the E. And that's not very easy to do, so take your time with it. Notice how the fingers are curved and presented from a perpendicular angle to the fingerboard. Again, you may find that you get this. That's the 1st finger touching the 1st string. Or your 3rd finger might not be quite on the tip, and the pad of that finger might touch the 2nd string, in which case you're going to get this sound. That's great if you're playing sitar, but it's not what we want here. So we want to have cleanly fretted notes as much as possible. In this example, the right hand is just going to do the same pattern that we played in etude. P, I, M, I as free strokes over and over. And in this case, you're actually going to want to use your thumb on the 3rd string, which may seem a little funny, but it's something we sometimes do. When we play the pattern, it sounds like this. As this goes, the notes change. So in the 2nd measure, we lift up that 2nd finger on the 3rd string. And then we're going to put it back down. And then we'll see that some of the notes change. But we're always sticking to the first 3 strings. So let's start this one. So this one starts actually with just a single C, and then the A is added. Okay, so this is treble string etude. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now notice at the end of that one, I strummed with the thumb. That is when the thumb actually plucks from the 3rd string down towards the ground through the 1st string. In notation, that's notated with a squiggly line in front of the stack of notes. We call that a strum. So here's that treble string etude at a little faster tempo. I don't expect you to play it this way, but just as an example that you can see that something seemingly so simple can come to life at a slightly faster tempo.